Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
Jen, good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy that we're finally meeting. We were just talking before we started recording about how we have so many connections. It's like 6 degrees of breast cancer separation, right?
Seriously, so many amazing women that we're both friends with. I cannot believe that, we don't know each other.
I know. Well, now we do. So now
Exactly.
we do. And we're going to get to know each other even better over the
Oh,
next.
yeah, you know
Yeah,
it.
awesome. So I'm so happy. I know you're super busy, so I'm so glad that you took time out of your
Oh
schedule.
my gosh, never too busy for you.
Awesome. So before we get into all the good stuff that we want to talk about, give us a little history about who you are and why we're talking today.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to speak with you. And am I allowed to say it's the first time that you're doing a video podcast? So
It
I'm honored.
is. Yeah. So if you're listening to this podcast, know that there is a coordinating video on my YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go check out my podcast.
Yeah,
So
that you can
yeah.
hear us, you can see us.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
No,
But
it's good.
so a little bit about me. Wow. I'm going to be a 7-year triple negative breast cancer survivor. It is really weird to say 7 years, I have to say, but there was a lot of breast cancer in my family, starting with my mom, my grandmother, and uh, you know, I think I was about 32 when my mom was like, you know what, you should probably get tested for the BRCA gene. Now, just a little rewind. My mom and her cousin were very ahead of their time. Many, many years ago, because my cousin was in the science field. She told my mom that she heard about some tests where you could send your blood to France and they could test. I mean, it was really just the very early stages of doing any kind of genetic testing, and they did test positive for this gene. So we knew that things were cooking in our
Mhm.
family.
Mhm.
My grandma, rest her soul, died of 89. She had breast cancer, but she did not. She died of natural causes. My mother also had breast cancer, and thank God, she is fine. So I did test positive for the gene, and I was told that I should have my ovaries removed by the time I'm 40 to help significantly reduce my chances of getting breast cancer. And I did that. And honestly, Jen, I really, you know, I'm very blessed that I have two teenage daughters now. I was done having children. So it was kind of like, it's going to suck to go into, surgical menopause. And that could be a whole other podcast.
Oh, yeah. Tell me
Um,
about it.
but hey, I want to be around I want to live.
Yeah.
So I bit the bullet and I did it. And at the age of 42, I was still diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer.
Mm.
And I'm a fashion and beauty publicist. And so once I knew what the course of treatment was, I was like, wait, I'm gonna lose my hair and my breasts. Like, what the, excuse my French,
No.
like, how am I gonna, I'm not just sitting behind a desk. I'm going to fashion shows and I'm going to, meeting with beauty editors of all people, right?
Mm.
So I scoured the internet looking for, I'm like, where's the Vogue of breast cancer? Where are the lashes and like the cool bras and I want to, look, find stuff that I can
You're
relate
gonna
to.
own it. You're gonna own it. If you
What
have
I
to go.
saw was
Yeah.
looked like something my doc, oh, I love my doctor. Looked like, it would be in a hospital catalog. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So I just really, I started a list of things that I loved. And my mother, in typical Jewish mom fashion, was like, bother Melissa, where's that list? Like, where's that list? And finally, a friend of mine was like, just put it on a blog. And it really just happened by accident. I just put it on a blog so that more people would have access to it. And then fast forward, I'm, doing really cool stuff on Instagram and collaborating with brands. And just, even though I'm 7 years out, I'm continuing to share all of the cool and beautiful things that help women that are, going through cancer.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, when you talk about being 7 years out, I think before I had cancer, I would look at something like that and I would say, oh, it's so long ago. Now that I'm in it, it's like you really aren't ever out. Right? Like you're like, no, I was in treatment 7 years ago, but it still lives with you in a way, right? It's like forever.
This is a really interesting topic. I think it's perspective, right? I have a lot of friends that have metastatic breast cancer, and they are literally always in it because they're always in treatment. They're always going for scans. So I'm grateful that, I think the fact that I am, now going for, my oncologist said I can come back every year. I'm like, let's do 6 months. Like,
Right.
they're really like, you're done, because the only good thing about triple negative breast cancer is that once you hit 5 years, you're considered like the chances of getting it is like, getting hit by lightning. So I think it really, to answer your question, I think it's just perspective. If you're not metastatic, you should be grateful. And if you are metastatic, guess what? There are so many incredible treatments, and uh, I know so many women that are living not just like they're living, they're
Yeah.
doing their life, and they feel great. So thank goodness for the research and the and all of the new technology, because women are living longer. But the metastatic uh, breast cancer situation, really it needs a lot more help and a lot more funding, and that could be a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, agreed. So when they suggested that you take out your ovaries, they didn't at the same time suggest you to have a mastectomy?
Oh no. So when I was diagnosed with I think I skipped the part that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So the timeline, I had the BRCA test was done when I was 32.
Mm.
And then when I was 42, I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. Now it was stage 1. And because I had the BRCA test, I was under a microscope, Jen.
Mm.
I was going for MRIs, clinical exams, which for people that don't know, that's where they basically feel your breast and your lymph nodes to see if there's anything cooking, and also mammograms. So I was going to the hospital like every few months for something. I was under such close watch. So I was very lucky to have caught the triple negative breast cancer at such an early stage.
Mm.
So when I was diagnosed almost 7 years ago, the suggestion was that for the course of treatment was that I have a bilateral mastectomy and ACT chemotherapy. And that's what I did.
Okay. So my question was, which I appreciate you sharing with everybody, my question was more, did they suggest a preventative mastectomy at the same time as when they suggested you had your ovaries out prior to diagnosis?
No, and this is interesting that you bring up this point, because the day that I went in, the day after I was diagnosed, the day that I went in for my consult was the very same day that Angelina Jolie came out with her news about having a prophylactic bilateral mastectomy. And I remember being so angry, like, why didn't I do that? And my mother was like, listen, everything's always easier in hindsight.
Right,
And
of course.
this is a very personal choice. Of course, if I had to rewind, of course I would have had a bilateral a prophylactic bilateral mastectomy. And I think that if you have a strong family history, that's certainly something to consider. And there's so many amazing women now. They are called previvors, which I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
that have taken their life into their own hands, which I think is amazing. And guess what? My daughters will likely have to make that kind of a decision. So that's
Yeah. No, and the reason that I ask is because I'm seeing it more and more and more now. And maybe it is because of the Angelina Jolies of the world, right, that are coming out and saying, I'm doing this. And I just think it's, when I think about previvors, I just think they're so incredibly brave. Not that survivors or patients are not brave. We are also, but there's a different bravery to walk in and say, okay, I have a choice and I'm going to do this, versus I don't have a choice. I didn't have
Absolutely,
a choice.
because I'll tell you this, I did have conversations with my oncologist years ago, and there are different debates. And listen, this is a few years ago, but they are really brave, because they're going into the hospital for surgery with healthy breasts, right? There's no disease there. It's the possibility.
Yeah.
And I think for previvors, I applaud them, because they are going through the same course of action that women who are diagnosed with cancer have. They have to go through the removal of their breasts, which is an amputation, which there could be major complications that could happen. And then they have to go through reconstruction. So it's no walk in the park, but talk about like a life insurance policy. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, when you had your ovaries removed, and the reason that I want to talk about that is because so much of your work is based on fashion and beauty and what we look like. And so when we lose our breasts, we lose our hair, there's a very big element of losing your femininity, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I want to talk about the ovaries for a moment, because it's not something that you see. However, I would imagine it still really affects how you feel about yourself as a woman. What was your experience with that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, I remember thinking to myself, yes, I'm done having children, but wow, this means I'm really done having children.
Mm,
And there's a sense of loss there because, you know, as a young woman, you start to menstruate, and like these are all like rites of passage. It's like it becomes such a part of you, and who you are. And I definitely felt a sense of loss. And from I tell a lot of people too, I think, chemo and surgery and all that is difficult. Surgical menopause was a lot harder than I thought it would be.
mm.
I remember immediate hot flashes and mood swings, and it took me a long time to really find my groove again.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. So I personally, I'm in medical menopause right now. I'm on Lupron. So my ovaries are not working, although I'm not technically not in full menopause. And I went to my gynecologist to talk about having my ovaries out. And I sat in the waiting room to speak with her. And I saw all these pregnant women. And I got into her office, and before she even said a word to me, I just started bawling. She was like, "What's wrong with you? I thought you were, done having kids." And I'm like, I am, but how did I get from that to this in 10 short years? I feel like an old lady, it's like I
Right,
wasn't.
something I think really actually kind of sexy and youthful about
Yes.
when you're pregnant and the baby and your breasts are
And
full,
you're
and like
glowing and
glowing, and
yeah.
you just exude it. There's nothing more feminine than that,
Yeah.
right? So when you
Yeah.
have to give it up, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. So let's talk a little bit about then losing your breasts, losing your hair, and how it affects, how you see your body and the femininity. What are your thoughts on that, and how you manage through that, especially being in the industry that you're in?
I remember initially, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was mugged.
Yeah. I'm only laughing because I get it. It's not funny, but it's like,
It's
yeah.
like, are you guys serious? Like, I'm gonna lose my breasts and my hair. Like, think about it. We flip our hair, adjusting how do my boobs look in this dress? Or like, is this okay? How's the swimsuit? I mean, especially as a society. I mean, I grew up playing with Barbie dolls, and
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
uh, so I remember initially I was mortified because, again, especially being in beauty and fashion, I just didn't even recognize myself. And then I thought, God, it's like I didn't think I'd get choked up so long ago. Um, the reason I'm crying is because I wish I could tell myself with what I know now.
Mm.
Because that Melissa was really sad and didn't feel like she could, be pretty again ever. Um, or even felt ashamed to go to Trader Joe's. Who am I going to run into?
Mm.
So that's why I fight so fiercely. Am I saving lives? No. But if I can give women the tools, and I always say, you don't need to look like a supermodel. You just want to look like Jen. I want to look like Melissa. Like, you just want to look like yourself. That's the prize to me. If I can help, preserve that for women,
Mm.
and yeah, throw on some lipstick. They have these, the hats with the hair coming out, or a wig, whatever works for you. Like, there are ways to kind of, I say, smoke and mirrors. You can
Mm.
fake it till you make it. And there are so many women that look amazing bald because they rock amazing eyelashes and they pop the earrings on and they like work their lipstick. So, there are ways to work around it, but I definitely, I never felt so defeated.
Mm. Yeah, that really, I definitely understand that too. It's something that I'm still working through myself, going through. I just had my second reconstruction just a few weeks ago, and just trying to, go bathing suit shopping was it's a horrendous experience. I thought it was horrendous before I had my breasts removed.
Yeah, and then
Now
you
it's
feel
like,
like, I always say, I felt like I was on Planet Melissa, like I'm the only one that's trying to shop for, like, especially when you're going through the reconstruction. I remember at one point I was like, I seriously look like Raggedy Ann. Like, what
Yeah.
is going on? And then things calm down,
Yeah.
but you just can't. It's so hard to like see, And look, we've all been in the doctor's offices where they show you the before and the after. Like, oh wow, that's great. But when you're in the middle of it, you're like, this is. So I can totally relate. Yeah, going
Yeah.
babysit shopping was never fun. Let's just
That's
we
what
can
I'm
talk about that
saying.
for a minute.
It was
Never
never fun to
fun in the
begin
first
with.
place.
Now,
Required maybe a mimosa beforehand, but now it's like,
yeah.
yeah, it's hard because your
Yeah.
body's different.
And
But
this is really what I mean. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go.
no, and I tell women, it's easier said than done. You just have to embrace. So, some women also choose to go flat, or they just have had one breast reconstructed. So then you just have to get to the point where you work with what you have, and technology is so great. I think in the world of fashion, there are so many options out there.
Mm,
Can I plug? You know what I'm going to say.
please.
Anna Ono.
Yes. I
Thank
love
God for
Dana and
Dana.
Anna
We could
Ono.
do
So we,
a whole episode on her, but I mean, she's actually the catalyst, I think, for what I even do, because I tried so hard to find brands that I thought were cool and that
yeah.
were functional.
Right. So Anna Ono, by the way, you guys, is a bra company designed by our friend Dana, and she is amazing. She's a breast cancer survivor as well, and she's really bringing breast cancer fashion to the lingerie world in a way that makes us all feel not only empowered and beautiful, but comfortable, because that's another thing. Comfort after all of this, like just finding a bra that fits and supports and yet doesn't put too much pressure on or doesn't leave marks or isn't itchy, is so hard. It's so
Yep.
hard.
So on top of that, they work, but they're beautiful. And she just came
Yeah.
out with a sports bra,
Yeah.
and she's not paying me to say this. And
Or me, by the way.
because you know why? It's not just about the bras. She really is like, I tell her, she's like a pioneer for our community. She has really like brought women together and
Yeah.
made them feel like her hashtag is never alone. You're never alone. Like she's really created a community. And I think that alone has been amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Never Alone, because I have certain moments where um you don't really know what's going on underneath somebody's clothes, right? I mean, especially if somebody has not had a mastectomy, maybe they've had a lumpectomy or they've, just had some radiation or whatever it might be. You never really know what's going on with somebody. But I have certain moments where I do feel very alone. Like if I'm at the gym, let's say, and I can't do push-ups because of my surgeries and I'm still, recovering from that, and it's very hard, or I can't raise my arms all the way or whatever it might be. And then I find myself sometimes like looking around, is anybody else in the room having the same struggle? Like maybe they're with me. And there are times where, most of the time, where nobody else is struggling with it. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm so alone. I can't believe I'm the only one in this room that had that.
Yeah.
It's not always true, but there are many times that you do feel very alone in
Oh,
this.
it feels so isolating. To your point, I had to go for therapy after my bilateral mastectomy because I had an issue with, I couldn't do the wall crawls. I couldn't reach my arms all the way up. And I remember one day I was in the kitchen. I love to cook, and I was like going for the garlic powder, and I just started to cry because I could not reach it. And I was like, God, like you feel like you're just stuck in this crazy, like it's not even your body anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is why I say it has the ability to touch every single aspect of your life. It's not just your body. It's like your everyday things, you're working out, your, everything. I mean, I remember doing,
Oh yeah, everything.
doing my hair like this because I couldn't raise my hands up high enough to do my hair. It was terrible. So let's talk a little bit about CancerFashionista a little bit more. And, you say that you're not saving lives, but I will argue with you, okay, maybe you're not ridding people of disease. However, there is a huge emotional impact when we look in the mirror and we see somebody that we don't recognize. So helping somebody see someone they recognize or redefine who they are and redefine what beautiful is, I think contributes to the emotional healing.
Absolutely. And thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think, for me and like many other women, sometimes just, taking the time, that a couple of minutes, even on your crappiest chemo day, to put a little bit of makeup on and take a nice bath and just like be kind to yourself. It's, for me with Cancer Fashionista, it's not just about the exterior. It's not, the makeup is great. It's definitely a tool. Don't get me wrong. And like having the right, you know, uh, bras and comfortable clothing during, treatment, all that is so important. But I think, also what I always like to encourage is just to be kind to yourself and be patient. If you can't do Orange Theory because you just had surgery, hello, it's okay. Take your dog for a walk. Just sit on your porch with a cup of tea and just like feel the sun on your face. Like just learning to sort of, you know, accept where you are at each chapter and just kind of be patient with yourself. That's a big one.
Are there any products or fashion tips or anything that you really love that you want to share with somebody that maybe, because I don't know about you, but I freaked after I got diagnosed. Like everything was like causing cancer. So I can't use that lotion anymore and I can't use
Oh
that.
yeah, I dumped all of my and I'm a makeup freak and I like threw all my makeup out. So I love Salter Girl Beauty.
Okay.
And actually, it was founded by two beautiful, amazing sisters that are live in Maine. Leah is an oncology nurse, and Sarah is a triple negative breast cancer survivor.
Wow.
And they just could not find products that they loved, so they created their own brand. And it's beautiful, and it's clean, and it actually works. Like the foundation, the coverage is amazing, and it also smells like cake batter. That's Alta Girl Beauty.
Yeah.
I also love Violets Are Blue. Cynthia is a dear friend of mine, real estate agent turned, entrepreneur, because she couldn't find a deodorant that she felt worked. So Violets Are Blue is a beautiful brand as well. And then recently I discovered a brand that I am in love with. It's called Me Wellness, and they they're like CBD based products. Not all of them have CBD, but herbal supplements, if you will. And there's one called Dream that really helps with sleep. It comes in like a roller ball, or you could drop it in your tea. And there's one called Calm that like chills you out. And I wish I kind of had that when I was going through treatment, because Lord knows I kept Xanax in business.
Xanax, I think, is like the most popular word that comes out of breast cancer survivors' mouth. It's funny. I have to tell you, I never took a Xanax in my life until I was diagnosed. I called my general practitioner and I was like, listen, I know you don't know me that well, but if you don't write me a prescription for Xanax right now, we are divorcing. Like,
I mean,
and I've honestly probably,
I was never a huge advocate of drugs, but yeah, there's a time and a place for Xanax. And I think chemo, especially right before chemo, I'd be like, I cannot wait to knock myself out, because it does. It kind of just unplugs your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I've probably only taken maybe 3, but it's like just knowing you have it sometimes is like, but I remember when I went for chemo at first, they used to give me an Ativan because I did the cold capping, and the cold capping was horrendous. And they would give me Ativan. It did. I lost about 30% of my hair still.
Wow.
And it, the process sucks, and I hate to complain about it because I still had my hair, but it was like you couldn't blow dry it, you couldn't put it up, you couldn't wash it more than once a week. You couldn't. I mean, it looked terrible for me. You couldn't wear a hat. You couldn't. It was like there were days where I was like, why am I even doing this? I look worse now than I've ever looked, and it's not fun and it's uncomfortable. But in the end, I was happy that I did it because it gave me a sense of control. Again, over that mugging of femininity, right? Because every time I feel like I walk into my oncologist's office, there's a moment of like, okay, here's what we're going to do next. Oh, you feel good today? Well, let's fuck that up.
Oh yeah, totally.
Let's figure out a way to ruin that. So
yeah, because I remember going into being like, because chemo is cumulative. So I remember going in, you guys, this is not that bad. And they're like, just wait, come back to us in like 3 weeks. And I go in there like with my knuckles on the floor. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, that was my point in the beginning. They would give me an Ativan and I would pop the pill and like, I'd be all right. By maybe the 5th chemo session, I was like, put it in the IV, just get it right in there. I'm just knock me out. It's like, I don't want to sit here and know what's happening right now. Just knock me out. And that's so not who I am. But sometimes like, it's too much for your body to handle, even emotionally. Like I would get nauseous before chemo, like the day before, just knowing it was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like natural childbirth or one of those moments.
I love that. So, another thing also is that when losing hair, sometimes it grows back differently, right? Did yours grow back differently?
Oof. Do you know what a Brillo pad looks like? I mean, it grew back thick and curly, and I was great. I was just grateful that it didn't come back gray, because I would just.
Mine did. The 30% I lost came back gray.
Really?
Yeah.
I am proud to say that I'm 48 and I still don't have any gray hair.
Good for you.
My hairstylist is like, girl, you are like totally like cheating the whole system. I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on.
I love
But
it.
anyway, yeah, I was it grew back really funky, and there again, I was so upset because I thought, great, now I have this. I never had curly. I didn't know how to deal with curls, but eventually it all grew out, and it came back to my original state. But you know what? I ended up having fun with it. Like I just learned to work with it, and that's what I encourage women to do. Okay, fine. It's like great. I have curly hair now. Like, what are some great curly hair looks? Like
Yeah.
maybe I'm just going to throw some product in it today, or it's easier to maintain. Whatever it is, you just have to
Yeah.
kind of work with it. But it did came back pretty funky.
Recently there was something that went around the internet that was like hair dyes contributed to higher breast cancer rates, and my husband sent it to me, and I sent him a note back that said, and your point is, like, if I am going to live this life, I don't want to do it with gray hair yet. It's just, I think that there's like amazing people that like grow their hair out and it looks amazing on them. I just don't
Yeah.
think I'm one of those people that can embrace the gray.
Oh
Not
yeah, I've
yet.
seen there's like silver foxes. There's
Oh, they're
some
amazing.
beautiful. It makes me almost want to go gray. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. And I think that if maybe I hadn't gone through everything I went through with breast cancer, I would be more likely to embrace the grays. But for now, I'm kind of like, no, no,
Funny, hair
no.
becomes such a funny thing. Like I grew my hair really long because I felt like, okay, now I need to grow it really long. And you know what? It really wasn't doing anything for me. And just a few months ago, I cut like a sort of a longer bob, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I didn't even realize that I was afraid to cut it again, like
Yeah.
because I didn't want to lose my hair, which is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was
It,
definitely a subconscious
yeah.
thought. 'Cause when they cut it, I'm like, oh. But then I was like, oh, thank God.
Right. It's so much better now. Well, I love it. I think that everything you're doing is really so
Oh, you're
amazing.
sweet.
And
Thank you, Jen.
yeah, your message is
And
incredible.
you're doing some pretty awesome things too. I love your
Thank
photography.
you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think, one of the really strong messages that you're sending that we're getting between the lines, I'm just going to put it out there, is that it's okay to be in treatment and take care of yourself and put makeup on and, go out and present yourself to the world in the way you want to be presented. You don't have to become, for me, it was one of the things that I remember I was traveling during treatment and feeling guilty, like I shouldn't be doing this. I should be home sick on my couch. But, cancer these days has a different look and a different feel. And I think that if you want to put yourself out there in that way, do it and without guilt. And if you don't want to, I never wore makeup to chemo. Fine, do that, without
Oh,
guilt.
listen, sister, there were some days that I was in bed in my jams, like the kids, everyone had to bring, whatever broth I made them
Right.
make me. Definitely days like that where I don't even remember what I watched on TV, where you're like napping in and out. It's like a weird dream,
Yes, yes, yes.
You have to surrender to those days.
Yeah.
There are definitely some non-makeup, and there are still some non-makeup days. Hello.
Yeah, completely. But I guess my point is really like, if you want there to be the makeup days, if you want, I mean, I wore high heels once to chemotherapy because I was like, why not? I wore pink Manolos to my mastectomy, actually.
Sweet. Oh my
Yep.
God. What did your doctor must have loved that?
Oh my God. They were like, I've never seen anybody wear heels, forget pink suede Manolos, and I was like, listen, if I'm going in, I got to do it on my terms. This is what makes me feel feminine. This is what makes me feel good.
Right.
And I'm not going to put myself in a position where I have to be a sick, terrible, sad patient all the time. There's moments of that, but I want to own this the
Sometimes
way I
by
want.
putting on the heels or the lipstick, sometimes it actually does lift your spirits and make you
Yeah,
feel better.
exactly. Great way to end the great way to end the conversation. All right, tell everybody where they can find you, Melissa, if they want to learn more about you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jen. My website is CancerFashionista.com, and you can find me on Facebook at CancerFashionista or on Instagram at CancerFashionista.
Awesome. And Melissa is also in my new group, my reconstruction group. So if you are out there and you had breast cancer, if you are previvor, survivor, thriver, patient, and you want to join the Facebook group, you guys can do that. I will put links everywhere in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast, and down below if you're watching on YouTube. I really appreciate you, Melissa. You're amazing. And thank you for taking time.
I appreciate you, Jen. You made my day. Thanks so much for having me.